Welcome to Sports Spectrum, the sports and faith podcast that brings Jesus back into the conversation. Here's your host, Jason Romano.
Welcome, everyone, to Sports Spectrum. I am Jason Romano. Great to have you joining us here on the program today. Got a little bonus episode for you with Marquette senior guard Markus Howard. If you are a college basketball fan, you know who Markus Howard is. This guy is a stud. He's the 2018-2019 Big East Player of the Year. Last year in his junior year. This year in his senior year, he returned, and he's averaging 25.8 points per game through his first 13 games. And as of the taping of this podcast, he is leading the nation in scoring. Stud. Scored 51 points in a game earlier this year. 101-79 win over USC. Became the third player to score 50 points in a game in 3 straight seasons ever, joining Wayman Tisdale and Pistol Pete Maravich. Earlier this year, he became Marquette's all-time leading scorer, surpassed the mark in the very first game of the 2019-2020 season. But Markus Howard is more than a basketball player, and that's what this podcast is about. He is a man of God. He is a man of faith who loves Jesus. And not only that, you'll see here in our conversation, when he came back for his senior year, I mean, listen, when you're the Big East Player of the Year in your junior year, nobody would fault you if you decided to try your hat at playing in the NBA. But Markus came back, and he's seeing the fruit of that decision come to pass here because he felt compelled after going on a mission trip in Costa Rica to really begin to make a difference spiritually at Marquette. He's got a great story. You'll love getting to know Markus Howard, Marquette senior guard, leading the nation in scoring, and he joins us here on Sports Spectrum. Take a listen. Markus, welcome to Sports Spectrum.
Oh, no, I appreciate you guys having me. It's definitely a pleasure and an honor. So looking forward to, conversating with you guys. And, great opportunity, so I appreciate it.
Thank you, man. Thanks. It's great to have you here. Let's start on the court. We'll get to your testimony and your journey of faith in 1 second. But when you play games where you score 40 and then 51 and you're in a zone like that, you're obviously leading the nation in scoring, and that means that you are a scorer at heart, I think. But what's it like to be in a zone like that when you drop 40 and then 51 in a game? That's got to be a pretty amazing feeling.
Yeah, I kind of like to be, if I have a good game, I kind of like to be on to the next one, because I don't want to ever get caught up in one performance when you have one, have to have another one in another night. So I want to be sure that, I kind of have a clear mind every time I play. So just trying to continue to be aggressive every time I step on the court, and then just with the teammates and coaches that I have that give me a lot of confidence in my game and, are always believing in me. It definitely helps make things easier on the court for me. So a lot having to do with, just who I'm around, the people I'm around, and then also just having faith in myself, and then, going back to how hard I've worked and, being confident in my work ethic and knowing that, the things I see on the court I've seen before and, preparation. You
got to be knowing you're feeling it, though, when you're dropping to 51 in a game. And I think that answer is the right answer. But there's something about I played ball, very, community college type basketball many years ago. But I just know even when I'm playing with the fellas, when you have it, it's got to be a pretty cool feeling when it's something's going different, a little bit more different tonight than most nights.
Yeah, definitely. I think the game in itself just kind of flows when you're in a zone like that. So I think everything kind of just starts working for you, whether it's offensively or defensively. So I think when you get lost in the game, things just start to happen for you that, you kind of can't even really can't even put into words. It's more so just something that your body just kind of just goes with everything that's going on in your mind, so it's kind of just a full effect, it's kind of like everything's just starting to work out for you, whether that's offensively or defensively, like I said. So, it's definitely one of those feelings that's really good when you're playing the game, just because, you feel like everything's just kind of going your way.
When things are not going your way, and I know there was, I think, one game I look at, maybe the Maryland game earlier this year, you went 1 for 12, and it was a loss, and I'm sure that wasn't too good of a feeling coming out of that game. But I think we can all learn things, even especially through our journey of faith, when we go through the down times. So what does a game like that teach you as opposed to a game when you drop 51?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely not a game that you want to have, but it comes with there's peaks and then there's hills and there's valleys. So I mean, in terms of those, you have to understand, like, if a game like that happens, it wasn't in God's will for you to have a good game. Maybe He's trying to teach you something through that. And I never think of like losses being losses. I think of them as being lessons. So in terms of you lose a game, how can you learn from it? And I think in that time, you just have to keep the Lord first, and that's always been my kind of thing. If we lose a tough game or if I don't have a good game, I kind of think to myself, okay, I don't want to get defensive and try to blame something. I have to understand maybe this just wasn't His will for that day. And when I'm thinking in that way, I think I'm a lot more at peace, just because I know that if I sit on it too much and I get really upset about things that were out of my control, then I'm not really showing or displaying faith in Him. So I think just being able to kind of take a step back and not be so quick to blame certain circumstances for a bad game or a loss, rather than maybe it just wasn't His will in that moment. I think that's kind of what helps me through tough times like that.
Markus Howard is our guest here on Sports Spectrum. Keeping the Lord first. Where does that start for you? Where did your journey of faith begin? Share with us your testimony.
Yeah, it really came from just, my family. My father and my mother really just having that be the forefront of our household was our faith, no matter what. We were always keeping God first, and that was being in church every Sunday, and then also just being a part of, Bible study groups with my dad and my brother. So faith has always been, just a big part of our lives. And then, of course, it, trickled down into sports, too. I think the Bible and sports, go hand in hand. And, it's been, just something that we've shared as a family and embraced, just because we're all just a basketball family. And we're able to, tie things in the Bible that we read and kind of tie it into our lives with the game. So, I mean, it all works really well, just because I feel I have such a great support system that backs me in all that I do. And, the fact that, Christ is at the forefront of it all is definitely something that helps make it easier for us, be able to speak on and touch on.
And yet that faith that is your parents, and as a family, it still has to become your own too, right? It's a relationship. And I know that you went on a missions trip to Costa Rica a few years ago, and that really moved you and changed you from what I've read. Can you share a little bit about that experience and what that was like?
Yeah, no, the experience was great. So I went on a service trip with a bunch of student athletes from Marquette, and we went to Guanalama, Costa Rica, and we helped build a multi-purpose court for a community out there. And, in that time, I wanted to make sure I was making the most of the opportunity, whether that was, just from a cultural aspect, but also a spiritual aspect. So I wanted to be sure, like, on the trip that I was keeping, my faith at the forefront of it. So I wanted to, lead Bible studies on the trip. And, I mentioned it to the group, and each night I would lead a Bible study, and, the numbers began to grow and grow until the last night that we were there. I was pretty much speaking to the whole village, which is over, 50 to 60 people. And, I had someone translating while I was speaking. And, in seeing that, it was really powerful. And, just to see the effects of it all was really, something that I took with me. And, when I was able to see that, I felt not only my faith, but just how I felt about what I was doing just grow and grow, just because I knew that, God was in that place, and He was really working through me and the people there also with me, and us trying to accomplish a mission. So it was something that, I was really proud of, but also it was something that I knew was going to benefit me along the way.
That's pretty impressive, though, for a young guy leading Bible studies. What did that look like for you? Kind of take us through the Cliff Notes brief, 45-second version of what a Bible study looked like from you leading it perspective in Costa Rica.
Yeah, no, it was mainly more just so, like, talking about, the highs and lows of our day, talking about something that, we thought was really impactful on your day, and kind of just talking about that where we might have saw God work in our day during that time. So that was kind of like always an opening, and then kind of just talking, going and getting into the Word, and then just talking about real life examples. I want to try and make it as applicable as possible. So making it relatable to people, especially those people that are my age that play sports. How in the Bible something we read, we could see it in our sport. So just making it real relatable, I think, is the most important thing, just because you want to be sure that the people you're talking to kind of understand what you're saying, but make it in a context that they get.
I know last year you felt compelled to help start an FCA chapter at Marquette. Tell us about that process and walk us through how that took place and why you felt compelled to do that.
Yeah, so a lot of it had to do with the service trip to Costa Rica. I was on the trip, and I just felt that it was something that could be brought to our campus. I felt there was a place for it on the campus, and I brought it to some of our academic staff, and they thought it was a great idea. So me, along with a fellow student athlete, took the steps necessary and needed to get a chapter started here. And this is our second year doing it, and it's continued to grow and grow each and every year. So it's been something that I take great pride in, and am very proud of what we as a group have done and the impacts that we've been able to make, through this club and through this group.
What does that look like from a day-to-day perspective? Because you're obviously a basketball player, and there's a lot of time and effort being put into that. And then you have to do your studies and go to school like a normal college kid. And then you're leading FCA. So day-to-day, week-to-week, I know right now in the middle of the season it has to be difficult, but what does that look like actually leading an FCA chapter?
Yeah, it definitely, you can't do it alone. So, I have a good group of people around me, different student athletes who help and, who, take initiative with the group as well. I didn't want it just to be my type of deal. I want other people to have ownership in it too. But whether that's organizing meetings to where it's, writing my own kind of sermons or getting things squared away. Me and a fellow student athlete meet on a weekly basis, and we kind of go over the meetings that we want, or certain topics we want to go over in meetings, or, things that we want to provide in meetings for that week, because we meet every Sunday. And, we just want to try and make it, an enjoyable experience for the student athlete, just because it's taking time out of a Sunday to, talk about, God and how he's working in your life. So we want to be sure that it's comfortable for people, that, they don't feel any type of pressure, that they're enjoying it, they're having a good time, because that's really what it's all about. We want people to have a good time, relieving some stress from their day-to-day life, but also, getting some good counseling and some good guidance in the Word. So that's kind of what we like to do on a weekly basis, is meet and try to, come up with ways to make the meetings, as enjoyable and as impactful as possible.
A couple more questions here with Markus Howard on Sports Spectrum. So you wear the number 0 for a particular reason. I read about this, but I'd love for you to share why you wear the number 0.
Yeah, so in choosing my number when I got here, I wanted to, tie it to my faith and make sure that it actually meant something to me. And, when the opportunity presented itself, I really thought about what I could connotate the number 0 with in my faith walk. And, it made me think of, without God, I'm nothing. I feel like, first and foremost, I'm a Christian. Before anything else, I'm a son, so I want to be sure that, my number meant something and it represented something. And it truly represents, without my relationship with Christ, I feel like I am not, I'm not the person that I'm meant to be. So that's kind of just my explanation of what my number means to me. And, it's true. It truly rings true just because of, how my relationship and how much my relationship with Christ, really shapes my life.
Markus, you averaged 25 a game last year and Big East Player of the Year, but you came back. And are you starting to see sort of the I don't want to say the reaping what you sow type of deal, but I guess in terms of being able to lead an FCA chapter at Marquette, that doesn't happen if you declare for the NBA. Do you see kind of how God's been working through your decision to come back to Marquette and play this season?
Definitely. I felt, in terms of coming back, I thought it was going to be great for me to, have another year to leave an impact on this campus, through my faith. And I knew that another year here was going to only help not only myself continue to grow in my faith, but help others around me. And, that was another big reason why I wanted to come back, was continue to help make Marquette the best place that I can. So I know that just me trying to be an influence and spreading the gospel around this campus is something that I think God put me on this earth to do, and be able to do that through the platform of basketball is something that also is something that I feel He's placed me on this earth to do. So to have another year to do that was definitely something that I looked at as a complete positive. So I was happy that in that decision-making, it was something that I could look to.
Last couple questions here with Markus Howard on Sports Spectrum. All right, so the purpose that you are, I always say God has made us all on purpose for a purpose. So tell me about the purpose for Markus Howard. What's your purpose? Maybe it's whether it's at your time at Marquette, maybe it's in the NBA or somewhere else next year. But what is your purpose? You're created for a purpose, Markus. What is that purpose?
I feel my purpose is, to bring people or share, what Christ has done for me and, through the sport, whether that's playing, whether that's coaching or training. I think he put me on this earth to, spread his message and to impact people in his image as best as I can. I think that's kind of the main thing that I've been placed on this earth to do is, spread his word through the sport. Mm-hmm. And, I think being an athlete with a platform, you have to use it the right way. And I think keeping him at the forefront of everything is definitely going to help, people see and understand, the great things that he's done, not only for me, but for others in my position as well.
Markus, last question, man. Thanks so much for your time. This has been great. We ask this question to all of our guests here on Sports Spectrum. In the season of life that God has you in right now, you're having a great year with Marquette, hopefully lots of great things still ahead of you, not just in basketball, but in life. But right now, what are you learning from the Lord? What's the great lesson that he's showing you, that he's teaching you right now where he has you?
I think he's been teaching me, just to have patience, find the beauty in every moment, try not to be in a rush, but certain things, all good things come to those who wait. So I think, just continuing to be patient in everything I'm doing, knowing that the more that I wait, the more that I'm patient with things that might be on my heart that I want to happen really quick, that the more that I wait and the more that I trust in him, the better things will turn out. So trying not to be in a rush with everything, trying to, embrace each and every moment because, you never know when it could be your last.
He is Markus Howard, leading the nation in scoring with Marquette. Lots of great things planned, I'm sure God has for him, not just this year, but in the future. Markus, thanks so much for your time. Thanks for sharing your story. And listen, we wish you nothing but the best the rest of this season and going forward. Thanks so much.
No, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Great stuff there from Markus Howard. Listen, Markus is a stud. He really is. On the basketball court, this dude is a stud. Away from the court, he's got amazing things going, and God's got a great plan for his life, and I'm excited to see where the Lord takes him, not only this year with Marquette, they got a really good team, but could be next year in the NBA, but even years down the road, this dude might be an evangelist someday because he's preparing sermons and leading ministries, and that's a pretty cool thing for a top-notch basketball player. You can give him a follow over on Twitter at Markus Howard 11, Markus Howard 11, although he might want to change that username to Markus Howard 0, because I love the reason why he wears the number 0. Pretty awesome stuff. But Markus Howard, we really appreciate him for being here on Sports Spectrum. We also appreciate you for listening. Want to direct you to the website when you get a chance, sportspectrum.com. That's where all of our content can be found, daily devotionals, articles all day long on the intersection of sports and faith. But really, that's the place where you can go to subscribe to our magazine, our quarterly magazine, 4 issues for $18. Super cheap. You also get a couple bonus issues that will come your way. But for a quarterly magazine that is this good of quality for less than $20 for an entire year, like that's a deal and a half to me. And it goes to supporting our ministry, and it gives you a really cool outreach piece, this magazine, to be able to tell others and to give to others and help them learn about Jesus through the lens of sports. Really what Markus Howard's MO is to be an evangelist for Jesus through the game of basketball. So check it out at sportspectrum.com and subscribe today. Thanks for listening. We love you guys. We'll see you tomorrow with a brand new episode right here on Sports Spectrum. Have a great rest of your day.